class and a bunch of old ladies that are kicking my ass. These old ladies are fucking tough, man. This old lady, she goes to this workout class. I see her there all the time. She's got to be close to 70. She doesn't even bring water. She just toughs it out. She's there for 90 minutes, sweating and grunting through the postures. And you're doing an hour and a half class, those last 20 minutes in 104 degrees. It's so hard to get through. But when you get through, you just feel like you feel better. While I'm in it, I can't wait to do it again. Like while I'm struggling, and I was like, God, I need to do more than this. I need to do this more often rather. I can't wait to do this again. Like I always feel that. And it just lengthens everything. All the back things and the leg things, the hamstring things, just stretches everything out, lengthens it, and all the tension, it just straightens it out and loosens it up. And I just feel like for a guy like you or I who does a lot of like, especially like used to a lot of heavy lifting, you were saying, a lot of deadlifts and squats. This is the antidote for all that stuff. It's decompression and for your body maintenance. It's just phenomenal.
Probably lets loose the lactic acid out of your muscle tissue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know, here's what I've observed. You know, I live in Los Angeles, so there's a lot of yoga people.
Yeah.
But you know, I know them because they have a mat. Mm-hmm. But you can also see how they walk, how they sit. They're so in their body.
Yeah.
And there is a grace to, you know, I'm not trying to put anyone in the pejorative, but a yoga person, where there's not only are they limber, they're just really okay. Their body articulation, you're like, okay, I don't have that. I'm a herky-jerky, uncoordinated person, but there's a hum coming from that person's overall body.
That's what keeps me.
It's a beautiful machine, the way they articulate themselves, and the way they sit.
It's a very unusual balance. The balance of like.
But you can tell someone who does it, they have that.
Yeah,
and it's not subtle. I recognize it.
You would love it, man. You know what? You would love it because it fucking sucks. And while you're doing it, man, you have the internal dialogue's crazy.
Yeah, you want to bolt.
Well, you want to bolt, but you also start going over your life and your mind and dealing with all your bullshit and your to-do list and all the things you're doing wrong or slacking. There's something about really struggling in these static positions for like a minute where you're trying to like hold your leg up in the air and your sweat is literally pouring off your arms and your head, and there's something about that, man, that it's just really cleansing. It just really empties you. I just think it's a thing that you're missing that you would really love if you tried. I bet if you did it and then you came back and we did a podcast a year later, it'd be like, fuck yoga, I fucking love it. It's changed my life. It's changed my life.
Yeah, I know a lot of fighters, a lot of people who like are hectic for a living. Yep. They're yoga people.
Yep.
And like in the 70s, you say yoga, someone's going to punch you.
Yeah.
Like yoga, wham.
Well, you know why I found out about it? Do you know who Hickson Gracie is?
Plus,
Well, are we talking about the Gracie, the family?
Well, the family, Hoist Gracie's the most famous because he's probably the most important figure ever in the history of martial arts because he won the first Ultimate Fighting Championship and showed that a small man can actually beat larger men with technique and skill. Well, his brother is Hickson, and his brother is like universally regarded as one of the greatest jiu-jitsu guys, if not the greatest of all time. And he was different than everybody else in that he did yoga. Like his thing was, like I'd never heard of a martial artist that got into yoga, but Hickson would do these breathing exercises and he'd do these balance beam exercises, and he was always doing yoga and stretching, and that was a giant part of his workout. And he was above and beyond everyone else in his time period. Like in the 90s, everyone was scared of Hickson. He was the man. I mean, but it wasn't like there was any debate. It's very rare that you get something that is so antagonistic and so tightly contested as two men using martial arts techniques trying to strangle each other, and one guy stands above all by such a large margin, and that was Hickson. And I really do believe that part of it was his mind, part of it was his physicality, but a lot of that physicality was enhanced by his dedication to yoga. Yeah, he's a legit yogi. Like, he does that fire-breathing shit where he sucks his stomach in that weird way and has it move up and down.
Wow.
You ever see someone do that? Yeah. He does that like a real yogi. Like, it's a real trip. And I think because of his like physical, like you can see it there. He's got this video here. You can see him do this fire-breathing shit. Like, watch what he does with his stomach. It's kind of fucking crazy. He sucks his stomach way, way, way up deep into his rib cage. He does this breath of fire thing, and then as it gets going, he starts pumping his, like, here, see it, if you pull it up there, Jamie, the part where he starts to do it. Look at this.
Wow.
Yeah, like, what the fuck, man? Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And that's just one of the things.
He has abdominal muscle control.
Yeah.
Who gets that? That's a muscle group you never try and articulate, make it do anything.
Yeah. Well, he practiced yoga for a long time. And because of that, he had this phenomenal core strength and phenomenal balance. And he just had a giant advantage over everyone else. And I think a lot of that advantage was his ability to move his body was different. But it also just, for a guy like you that's been just lifting weights for so long, it's the perfect antidote for your body. It's like your body will react. You're like, oh yeah, stretch this out. Thank you. We've been asking for this. Yeah. You know, but lengthen this. Hold that pose. This is, instead of just lifting something, you know, which is like what men like to do. Instead of that, you're holding your arms out there like that. You're like, fuck, I don't even have any weight in these things. I want to drop them.
Yeah, I've done every once in a while I've worked out with someone else. They go, okay, we're going to do this and this, and then you work out, and then you let yourself be trained.
Yeah.
And I've done a few workouts. They go, okay, I'm going to kill you. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Like, by the end of this, you won't be able to take your shirt off to change. And I've done, where you're benching this much, then this much, then this much. You end up doing like 150 reps, and by the time you can't lift the bar. And you can't lift your arms. You're literally trembling from exhaustion. And I've told that to people. They go, that's yoga. You will tremble from exhaustion. And you'll be so happy when you leave because of how good you feel, and you can't wait to go back.
And you won't blow your joints out the way you will.
I already have.
Yeah, there's no way around it.
I paid. Yeah, I did a thing the other day on advice of Heidi, the manager, and Joey Diaz. I tried that cryotherapy. Yes, and I am not. I'm a naysayer in lowercase. I understand why it would work, and I'm not saying it's quackery, but I just feel like I'm in an Annie Hall scene when I walk into these places, like, because it's like super. Hey, we're that whatever therapy, and I'm Moonlight, and this is it. And then like you shake the guy's hand and he damn near breaks your arm. These people are in incredible shape. And so I said, okay, I got in the robe and I went into that room for 2 minutes and 45 seconds. And the endorphin rush, it's like a UPS truck of endorphins. Yeah. You come out of there like, can I go back in? Like, and since I got out of it, all I've been thinking about is going back in. In the parking lot, I just wanted to turn around and get another shot. Yeah. And I asked the guy at the counter, I go like, what is that? He goes, it's endorphins. Yeah. It just unleashes them like fight or flight. You just get this rush. I said, I want to go back. He said, come and see us again sometime. But it was incredible. And it's not long. Like you're out of there before you know it.
10 minutes, you're in and out.
Yeah, but wow. It knocked me out. And I know that a lot of athletes, and I know that you use it, Joey Diaz, but all the on the brochure, apparently all these sports teams, like it's just part of what you do.
Well, one thing it has been proven to do, there's a lot of naysayers when it comes to this, even scientists apparently, that don't exercise. But people that do exercise and do try it all pretty much universally regard it as being beneficial. But one of the things that's been shown in clinical studies is that it reduces and produces more anti-inflammatory bodies in the blood.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, so it does reduce inflammation in your body. And it just, but I think just for the mood elevation, it's worth doing. I mean, it does so that norepinephrine release that you get when you get out of there. It's unbelievable. You get that.
It wasn't so. It
No,
wasn't
it's
like
amazing.
it was like wow.
And the sun feels great in the
Guaranteed
face
to
when you're
fit
outside.
every time.
Everything felt
People
great.
love
I mean,
it.
I don't do much on as far as stimulants like a coffee and aspirin, I guess. So I'm not even sure what the effect is, if anything. And so it doesn't take much to make me go, well, that's different. You know what I mean? Yeah, and that I walked out back to the parking lot like,
Are you
damn,
using all the Old Spice?
that was
I
fantastic.
do 3 and then I take 10 minutes off and then I do 3 again. So I do 2 sessions.
Wow.
Yeah, I do 2 back to back.
So you go in, you do
my
like
body
what,
warms
2 or 3
back
minutes?
Up. I do 3 minutes, and then my body warms back up to like once your skin temperature gets around 84 degrees, they'll let you get back in there. and then I go back in there again for another 3 minutes.
So wait, how many you'll go into this place?
3 minutes, and then I wait for 10 minutes, and then I go in for another 3 minutes.
So you do
two sessions.
In 2 sessions in one visit?
Yes. Yeah.
And how many times a month?
Whenever I can, but I've been mixing it up more with sauna. I've been doing a lot of sauna lately. I kind of like that as much, if not more.
The sauna?
Yeah, sauna seems to be really good for muscle injuries. There's something about the sauna for any time of like muscle tissue or soreness or weird shit. Sauna just blows that all out. And sauna is also one of those things that it's what it is your body reacting to extremes, right? Whether it's extreme cold or extreme heat, your body produces heat shock proteins and cold shock proteins, and all those things are doing is reducing inflammation. That's the number one thing. Like, you want to feel better, reduce inflammation, and this one of the best ways to manipulate your body is either through cryotherapy or through sauna. Both of those things are amazing.
Yeah, someone I know that she says it's all about inflammation. You got to beat the inflammation.
Yeah, cut out all the sugar, cut out all the carbs, cut out all the bread, cut out all the alcohol. If you can do that, you'll massively reduce inflammation.
Yeah, that's her gospel. Is all that's nothing good in there for you.
Yeah, man. And once your body gets used to it too, that's what's really interesting. You don't really crave it anymore. Like I still like ice cream. I still enjoy like a dessert or something like that, but it doesn't have the same impact. I used to I see a sandwich and I go, oh, look at that sandwich. Look at that pastrami sandwich, big thick bread, and that doesn't do it for me anymore. I recognize what that is. Like, oh, that's a trick. That's a trick. That's not even really food.
Yeah, I don't eat as much as I used to. I just feel so much better when I just skip the middle meal. Like, whose idea was it 3 meals a day anyway?
You don't need that.
Right.
No.
And I found that I can live very comfortably. I'm not into torturing myself. It's like, oh, I'm going to starve and nail myself to this chair. But, if I'm too distracted to work because I'm hungry, I need to address that. But what I have found is if I just kind of don't eat a lot, after a couple of days, I'm like a jet in the high air where you're burning no fuel because you're just in the thin air. Where I walk by food going I've had 2 meals in the last, 2.5 meals in the last 3 days. And I feel fine. Actually, I feel really bouncy. I don't need the post-workout 7-minute power nap. I'm feeling really good.
Do you do intermittent fasting at all?
Yes, on the woman I work with, Heidi, she does that sometimes, and I'll just follow her lead. So she'll go, hey, I'm doing this, I'll try that, because I just don't know this stuff. And she knows a lot more about it than I do. So I just do what she does. And so a few years ago, I got into 1 meal a day. I was just trying it out. No one told me to. I was in India, of all places, and I was out all day taking photos and sweating, and I would eat dinner, and that would be it. And I would sleep through breakfast and go back out and with my camera. So dinner became my meal. And the first 3 days of that was a little tough. And then it was I never wanted, I kind of felt bad when I went back to the Western, boy, I'm eating a lot of food.
Your body adapts.
Yeah. Oh, we can adapt. You can live on pizza for the rest of your life very happily. Whatever.
But your body really does adapt to that intermittent, that time.
Well, no, I'm saying it'll adapt to anything. It'll adapt to too much food, or it'll adapt to a fraction of what you used to eat.
Right.
Here's what I have found. When I start limiting the food, I'm more alert, my sleep is more restorative, and I bounce out of bed. I'm just flying out of bed. I don't have that afternoon drowsiness. I just stay with it. And I just feel way more buoyant and present.
Yeah.
Type faster, just concentrate more. And when I'm on tour, it's usually I do 1 point something meals a day. I'm about to leave on tour, it's an evening meal post show.
I put myself into an 8-hour feeding window and 16-hour fasting window every day. And I've been pretty consistent with that over the last 4 or 5 months. It has a big impact, man. When I eat dinner, say if I'm done at 8 o'clock, I just time it out. 16 hours later is when my first meal comes. I can have a coffee in between now and then, but nothing with any real significant calories. I'm just having some liquid or something like that, and that's it. And then it just, by doing that, man, I wake up in the morning, I'm not craving breakfast. I'm not even hungry. My body's just totally adapted to it. Yeah, just gives your body a chance to digest. I think we're always in a state of feeding, and your body just never has really a chance to digest all that.
It's like juggling. You know, the body's like, as it's processing, it's incoming. Like, really?
Yeah.
Another order?
Exactly.
Where it never gets to realize digestion. Like, we're done. It's always in. Like, you're like a cow.
Yep.
They're always processing nutrition.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's a Western model.
Yeah.
Because in other parts of the world, people live very differently than we do. It is what it is. And a meal it's almost just a thing that happens now and then. It's not like it's dinner time and we're going to talk about report cards, and it's not a gathering. It's like the whole family works all over the city, and they're going to eat, I think, at some point. Where even sleep, you go to like parts like Vietnam, and people are just like sleeping behind the counter of the store they work at because they've been there for a day and a half.
Right.
Because mom can't come in, so they're running the store, and then sleep is this thing that you get now and then. And I think food is like that in a lot of parts of the world. Like a meal, the next time I eat will be the next time I eat.
When you go to these places, and I know you travel pretty much all over the world, do you go out of your way to try to sample in as wide a variety as the local cuisine as you can?
Matching with the TurboTax expert who does everything
Depends
for you.
on where I go. And I'm not that guy who just brings it all from home and I never leave home when I'm
your
abroad.
taxes?
But I can't afford to eat a bad meal and be bedridden for the next day when I should be out hitting the streets looking at stuff. And so I've had, as you do, you run into the bad meal where you're like hugging a tree, watching the Ark of Vomit, like, wow, Linda Blair. And I've done that from here to Myanmar and Russia, wherever I've had some bad meals. And so when the food looks dodgy, like in the interior of Africa, when you point at the meat object and go, what is that? And the guy will say, I think it's goat. Cliff Bar, just because I just can't. And so what I've learned to do, and it's hard on your back because it's a lot of weight, say I'm going to be out in Africa for 2 weeks. I bring about 2 meals worth of chow with me. That's a lot of nuts, a lot of Cliff Bars, a lot of like peanut butter, things that just don't go bad and eat. Where I can just look at the food and go, no, not tonight. It's going to be a handful of almonds and this and water. Also, in parts of the world where water's dodgy, you find a store, you buy the box of water, rip it open to make sure it hasn't been tampered with, buy the whole box, put it in your backpack, and lug 40 pounds of water for the next 5 days. It sucks, but you can't be somewhere and go like, I'm thirsty and I don't know about that water, because that could go south on you. Have you thought about bringing, they have these portable backpack filters and SteriPens and things that a lot of backpack hikers, they use. They're very small now. They're very small and lightweight, and you can get some, like if you're staying in a place and you think it has dodgy water, you can get a gravity filter where you put water, like you could literally get rainwater from outside in a puddle, and I know a lot of people do that. And they take it and they put it in this large gravity filter and drip down, almost like, it looks like someone peed at the bottom of this huge bag, like a 60-liter bag of water, but it filters it all and it allows you to drink basically puddle water. No, I've never gotten that high tech. I've been in some pretty dodgy places, but I've always been somewhere in prep, like a city before I go into the countryside, where I go, okay, it's going to be 5 days before I see anything like this again, so I'm provisioning for 8 days.
That's a good thing, but Google SteriPen. You should get one of these things, because this thing is so simple. It's like, it basically looks like a pen, and it works with ultraviolet light, and you put it in water. Like, say if you have a glass of water, you just stir this in the water, it kills everything in the water. Everything. Wow. Yeah, it'll still, like, if there it is right there. So if there's buffalo piss in that water, it's still going to smell like buffalo piss.
Yeah, but
it's not going to kill you. And it won't give you giardia, and it won't give you anything else.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, and it's not big. It's a small little device. You see it there.
No, it's handheld.
Yeah. Those are drops.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. I think
just
that's
put
a
it in your
different
backpack.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's parts of, like, mainly Africa, where you go really in. The water, like, that's a lot of mosquitoes.
Sketchy.
Oh,
Yeah,
and you see the locals drinking, like clearing the larvae out of the way. I'm like, don't do that.
Gosh,
Like, what do you mean? That's our water.
My good friend Justin Wren, he runs a charity called Fight for the Forgotten, where they build wells for the pygmies in the Congo, and he's had malaria 3 times from going over there. Yeah, and he he's a beautiful human being. Like, this guy sacrifices so much. He's in the Congo several months out of every year.
It's tough. It's
wells.
very dangerous.
It is very dangerous, and he's got some crazy stories about it too. But
I bet.
These people, they like, you see little children with horrible distended bellies because they're filled with parasites, and it's heartbreaking. A lot of it is clean water, and so they're developing. They're initially partnered up with Water 4. Now he's kind of doing it all on his own. But through this, one of my sponsors is called the Cash App. And through the Cash App, we've already raised thousands of dollars to build several wells in the Congo. We're constantly raising more money and building more wells. And it changes their life. They have free, actual, clear water that comes out of the ground. You see these people celebrating and dancing when the wells get turned on. Like, this is so powerful. You just think of water as like, oh, hey, here's some water. I got a bottle.
You can now
utilize
AI
it's everything.
to enhance
research
productivity.
I've been working on and off with a water NGO for
sources.
many years called Drop in the Bucket, and I've been
Try
to
Liner today
Uganda and
start
South
researching
Sudan with
smarter.
them. They drill at schools, and as a Westerner, water's just that thing we sing in the shower with. It's just like it's always around. You trip over the bottles. There's so much water.
Right.
In other parts of the world, as you know, not so much.
It's literally
And when you
nuts,
see the
because they're made with
impact of
almonds.
water on a school, there's so many things you don't think about. And so I was at this one school
Simple Mills.
where they had
Astounding
drilled, Drop in the
ingredients,
Bucket had drilled
amazing
like
taste.
before, and we were there to visit the well and meet the kids in Masaka. It's I think north of Kampala. And what one of the Drop in the Bucket people said is like, they now have toilets and running water. Do you understand what that means for female literacy?
Virgil Kane is my name, and I served on the Denver train. Just almost cavalry came and tore up the tracks again. In the winter of '65, we were hungry, just barely alive. Took the train, Richmond and fell. It was a time I remember oh so well. The night they drove old Dixie down, and all the bells were ringing. The night they drove old Dixie down, and all the people were singing. They went na 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 na. Back with the wife in Tennessee, one day she said to me, Virgil, quick, come see, there goes Robert E. Lee. Now I don't mind chopping up wood, and I don't care if the money's no good. You take what you need and you leave the rest, but they should never have taken the very best. The night they drove old Dixie down, and all the bells were ringing. The night they drove old Dixie down, and all the people were singing. They went na 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 na. Like my father before me, I'm the working man. And like my brother before me, I took a rebel stand. He was just 18, proud and brave, but a Yankee laid him in his grave. I swear by the blood below my feet, you can't raise the cane back up when he's in defeat. The night they drove old Dixie down, and all the bells were ringing. Night they drove old Dixie down, and all the people were singing. They went na 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 na. All right, dance with the dog. Boy, I really don't feel like doing this. This is the nobody's watching, right? This is the most dreaded activity of my day. But if I can do this, everything's easier. All I have to do really is just run around, fall down, get up, run around, fall down. That's it. That's all you gotta do. All right. Milo! Friendly dude! Milo! I gotta get the friendly dude. I gotta get friendly dude. Where's the friendly dude? I gotta get Brother Bear. Brother Bear! Brother Bear! I gotta get the friendly dude. So my goal is to make my dog's tail wag. My dog has a happiness meter, and if I can make my dog's tail wag, that means he's happy. And so that's what I want to do. And what works? Falling down works. Looking at him in the eyes works. And I'll give him a treat for putting up with my awkwardness. What else? I don't know. Whatever I do at the end of it, if my dog's tail wag, then that was good. It might be other things, like let's say, that's cringy. Yeah, but also the good stuff, really, yeah. Whatever I say about this, hey, Milo, come here. If his tail wags, that's good. He doesn't want to do it. I'll give him a treat. I'll give him a treat for dealing with my awkwardness.
The celebration.
Milo! Friendly dude! Right here. okay, we're gonna have a new rule that. New rule is if he absolutely doesn't want to do something, I'm not gonna like make him do it. Anyway, whatever. Tomorrow's another day. All right. Okay, Sean, what do you want? Okay. All right, you get to rant for 10 or 20 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna say a bunch of weird personal shit. If you don't want to hear weird personal shit, just turn me off. Okay, let's just say no one's watching this. Alright, so what do you want to say? First of all, I want to say, I don't want to corrupt the youth, so if somebody's watching this, don't let me corrupt you. I'm just going to do a bunch of goofing off stuff. That's what I do. I'm just going to do what I want from morning till night. I'm just going to play a bunch of inconsequential games and do a bunch of like, just kind of playing around type stuff. But you probably shouldn't do that. You should probably go to school. You should probably tend to your studies. You should probably get a job. You should probably get married. Everything I'm doing is not necessarily conducive to that. So what's my point? Look at me. I'm going to be a homeless person. Don't be like me. Go to school. But high diddly dee, an actor's life for me. But I'm going to be a jackass on my own pleasure island. But I don't want to. And I'm going to end up working in the salt mine. But don't let me do that to you. What's the point? Just, I'm an example of what not to do, obviously. Okay, so that's it. Okay, what are you doing? So just, no one's talking. No one's talking. Alright, 10 minutes, you get to rant about whatever you want to say. Alright, so what I want to say is, today is, I have to go, I don't have to, but I have these bucket list things that I'm trying to do. And one thing on my bucket list that's been there for my whole adult life is I want to do improv acting. I want to do like an improv acting class. It's the hardest thing that I have on my list. Like, it's not a big deal to most people, but I'm really, I'm really scared of humans. I'm really scared of humans to like a really like debilitating degree where it kind of makes my life kind of, what's the point? I just want to do it. I want to get myself to go to this improv acting class. I don't expect that if I go to the improv acting class, it's going to make me like a social butterfly, but I just want to be able to do it. I'm not trying to go to the moon. It's a very simple goal. A lot of people would have no problem doing it. For me, it's really unpleasant and scary, but I want to fucking do it. Now, somebody might say, you should just be yourself. You should just do you should be true to yourself. I do that too. Most of the time, I do art. I do solitary art type cerebral stuff. I follow my dream also, but I want to spend a little time facing my weaknesses just for a sense of challenge. I want to be able to like do this fucking thing. What's the point? I know, no one cares. I care. This is my fucking channel. I want to get myself to go to this improv acting class. Now, I know how this thing works. I've learned how this rig operates. I might not understand a lot about the world, but I've definitely learned the flaws and the ways to work this particular rig. And I know that like this improv acting class is going to be like a scary thing. It's not a big deal, but for me it's like a big deal. And so I knew that if I did, I've learned that like if I can establish a new habit, and if I can maintain that habit for about 3 to 6 months, I'll find a way to make it fun. I'll find a way to make it like a normal, it'll be not a big deal if I can do it for 6 months. But in the first month to 3 months, it's going to try to buck me off. It's going to say like, oh, I can't do this. This is too traumatic. I'm not the right person for this. If I can survive the first 3 months, I'll find a way to make it fun. I'll find a way to just be like, oh, this is no big deal. Actually, I can be kind of good at this. But I know that like, so basically that happened like over the last 6 months. I took improv acting class since November of last year, and sure enough, like I took it for like a month, and then I was like, I just can't do this. Actually, I took it for 1 day, and then I was like, I just can't do this. And then I took it for like a month, and I was like, I just can't do this. And then I quit. And then I took it for like 2 months, and then I was like, I just can't do this. And it's very similar to a lot of ththings I do, where like it's gonna buck me off early, and then I'm gonna hang in there a little longer, and then it's gonna buck me off again, and then I'm gonna hang in there longer. So now I'm doing it. I haven't done it now for like 2 months, and I'm gonna do it again. So I'm going today, and I'm trying not to like make it like a big deal, but in me it's kind of a big deal. It's kind of silly, but so I'm gonna grease the wheels a little bit. Again, like this is not like the right thing to do, but I remembered that like I have this idea that like there's some lame level I can do it at, and so I should ratchet things down to the to the lamest level that I can do it at. So I think do it lame, do it slow, do it virtually, do it any level that I can do it, and then try to ratchet it up later. But don't, there isn't just it and not it. So what's my point?
I'm so excited to get this project.
I'm cutting myself a little slack. I'm just gonna do it slightly drunk. That's what I can do. Is I could go there and there's a voice in my head that says, don't get drunk. Like, you should do it sober. You should do it the hard way. That's cool for like the cool people. The cool people are like, fuck that, I can do it with the hard way. If I do that, I might like traumatize myself, and I don't want to make it unnecessarily hard for me. So I'm gonna go to the liquor store today, and I'm gonna buy I don't even like alcohol, but I'm gonna get like a pack of Heineken beer, and I'm just gonna drink like 3 beers. I don't know, 6, enough to get slightly inebriated, and then I'm just gonna go to the class inebriated. My goal for today is I just want to go to this improv acting class, and I haven't gone for like 2 months, so right now it's like a big deal. But I know that if I go there for like 2 or 3 days, I'll show myself that it's not a big deal, and then I won't have to drink beer. But I'm just gonna drink beer because I just want to get myself to go to the damn thing. So my idea is like, go there, do it lame, do it drunk, but do it. As I was point. Just that's what I want to get. Whatever is gonna get me to do the fucking thing. But I don't think that's good. I think obviously, you know, it would be cooler to do it not drunk. But I want to, by hook or by crook, I want to do the fucking class. What's my point? Just, it's not good to drink, but like, I'm just using it as a little Cinderella magic slipper to get me to be able to do something which normally I can't really do. No one cares what you, John. I care. It's my channel. All right, let's run through this. Nobody's watching, right? That's pretty much all I have to say. Also, the other thing I should do is like, I should go to this. They have a class. They have a bunch of different improv classes. I should make it easy for myself. Like I should try this class. If this class is like really unpleasant or inconvenient, go to another class. There's some class I can go to that will make it. I have to make it a manageable, enjoyable grind. What does that mean? Just it has to be something that I can do regularly that isn't like this traumatic, overwhelming thing. So if this class is like if for whatever reason this class is too awful, go try another class. But I want to just go to one improv class per week, and then the rest of my time I'm doing my art stuff. So if somebody says like, you're wasting your time, you're doing this stuff, you should be true to yourself. I do that too. Most of the day I do my strength, but I can also I have 24 hours in a day. I'm gonna do my weakness. When I take a shower, I'm not like doing some new thing. It's like, oh, you're doing too many things. I just won't take a shower. I'll skip a shower. I'll go to the improv class. I'll skip something else. But there's just time. There's just time. I'm not doing like too many things. What's the point? You know when people say that? What's the point? The world is not words. So I want to remind myself, the world is not words. What do you mean? I'm gonna bring up the sheet. This is my therapy. I don't care. You're free to do whatever you want. I have to remind myself I'm going to be particularly off, and I'm going to be particularly weird today because I'm kind of like freaked out about this class. So I cut myself slack if I feel like really keyed up or something. It's normal, it'll pass. But I cut myself slack for feeling kind of jostled today. I'm going to be particularly nutty. I'm prone to be nutty today. It's fine. I'll get used to this. But right now it's like, oh my god. All right, so ready? Talk, John. Talk. What's the no word mantra? I like the no soul mantra. What's the no soul mantra? It's the devil. It's the devil. I'm doing the work of the devil. What's your point, John? Okay, so anyway, I have this idea. I have this thing that I say to myself every morning, publicly. I say it to myself publicly because I'm doing the work of the devil. I'm serving the devil. The devil is giving me secret devil pleasures in exchange for corrupting the youth. Really, yeah, I'm trying to tell you, I'm doing the devil's work. I'm talking to somebody out there, and I'm trying to convince you that you don't have a soul, so that the devil can lure you off your God-given path. I'm doing the bidding of the devil. What's the point? I don't know, that's just a story. What's the point, John? I think it's good to, I want to remind myself, it's good to ground my life not in superstition. And so, like, sometimes I worry about that. Sometimes I worry. I listen to Joel Osteen. Joel Osteen says you have a God-given path. When I listen to Joel Osteen, I believe in a soul. I believe in a God-given path. I normally pursue my God. I think my God-given path is to be an artist. I do the God thing also. But sometimes I want to do some stuff that's not my path. What's your point? I don't know. I just think there's stories. I think there's stories that people apply to the world. And Joel Osteen kind of, I don't know. What am I trying to say?
We don't know why she's been running.
Don't get crazy, John. I'm just trying to make this make sense to myself. you know, if there's some people say if you don't do the will of God, if you don't do your God-given path, that's the devil, and if you do that, you're gonna go to hell or something like that. What about people who like existed on North Sentinel Island? Like, what about like natives who were never exposed to the idea of God? Are they gonna go to hell because they don't even know who God is? They don't even know Joel Osteen. They weren't indoctrinated into the do good stuff. If they were never told what was good or what was bad, how can they be blamed for just not doing their God-given path? And then, like, what about a kid, right? Like, there was a time before, when I was a kid, before I even was told about God, what if I didn't do my dream? Like, what if there was some kid who was too young to even understand anything about God or what God wanted them to do or what his true path was? And let's say he did some, like, bad stuff. He doesn't even know what sinning is. If he, like, punches his sister in the arm and people go, oh, you're a sinner, you're, like, not respecting your family. If he then dies at, like, 5 years old before he even learns about what's good or bad, is he a bad kid? I don't totally believe it. I think there's just stories. I think if people who existed before, when people were cavemen, if they mugged somebody or if they, what's the point? When I listen to Joel Osteen, I'm gonna believe in stories. I'm gonna believe in the soul. I'm gonna believe in God, because I think it's just thoughts. I think you think the shit that you think because you're exposed to certain thoughts. But if you weren't even exposed to certain thoughts, I'm not sure how you can think something that you weren't exposed to. And so what's the point? You know, maybe there's a God. There could be a God. When I watch Joel Osteen, I believe in God. If I was on my deathbed, or if I was in like, they say there's no atheists in like foxholes. I'm sure there'll be a point in my life where I'm like, I'm so sure there's God. Like, oh my God, I have to go to. I know I'm going to go to heaven. I do believe in God sometimes, but I think believing is basically like an active thing. I think there's just thoughts. I think there's physical reality, and then there's thoughts, and the world is not your thoughts. Like when there's in terms of physical reality, you could just say like that's what happened. Like you make a video of something, that's what happened. Now, my interpretation of that, or why it happened, or was that God's will, or was that this or that, I don't see like, if I don't see like God there with like a robe and a beard, I'm just gonna say that's a story. That's like, okay, was that God's will? Was that not? I don't know. That's an interpretation. That's a story. That's something that's thoughts that I'm applying. Like if I'm thinking like, why did that happen, or was that God's will? I think that's an interpretation. But in terms of like physical reality, I don't see God. I don't see like, God, can you like show me who you are? All right, so God's not like coming out and talking to me, so I'm gonna maybe there's a God, maybe there's God's will, but if I go to hell and God's like, dude, you didn't do what I said, God, you gotta like physically show me some shit. At least I will try to do good, but like if I end up on heaven's gate and heaven's like, God's like, hey, you didn't do my will, it's like there's no evidence of like your will. And then those people on like North Sentinel Island, the cave people, are they going to hell? Like, are they going to hell because if they weren't even exposed to your will? You know, those natives on like North Sentinel Island, they don't even have Christians there. Like, they're just gonna do whatever they're gonna do. I just think there's stories, but I could be wrong. Maybe there's a God. I'm gonna think there's God. I'm gonna do God's will also. But when I'm making others, I'm trying to just base my decisions off reality. Do you want to talk about this one time? No, let's just say this really quick. What's your point, Sean? I don't know. I think there's just. I'm just gonna say this shit to make myself do shit. I'm gonna be particularly nutty today. No one should watch it. I'm gonna be particularly anxious today. Get to the point, Sean. Get through this fast. I don't think there's a soul. I could be wrong, but I don't think there's a soul because right now I don't think there's a soul. But when I listen to Joel Osteen, I'm gonna think there's a soul. But if I want to get myself to do some new stuff, I find it more useful to think there's no soul, because otherwise, I don't like the idea of being chained to some sort of like, that's me, I think it's more conducive to a growth mindset to occasionally not think there's a soul. And just think you can just do whatever you can physically do. But then sometimes I'll think there's a soul. Get to the point, Sean. If there's a soul, like what happens if somebody gets brain damage? What happened to their soul? If somebody gets hit in the head, they forget who they were, they get Alzheimer's. They seem like a totally different person. That'll happen sometimes. Is that person gonna go to heaven, or do they have like what happens to their soul if they have brain damage? And then if they have brain damage and they die, does the brain damage version go to heaven, or does the 5-year-old version go to heaven, or does the 50-year-old version go to heaven? It doesn't make sense. And then does an animal have a soul? If an animal doesn't have a soul, back when humans were part animal, did they have half a soul? And then if China makes like a half human, half pig hybrid, and an animal doesn't have a soul, does that thing have half a soul? It doesn't make sense. And so like, does a Venus flytrap have a soul? Does a tiger have a soul? Does a zebra have a soul? It does. It seems like, to me, it seems like it's just story. It seems like it's words. It seems like people are applying words to the world, and that makes for some weird confusion. Like my parents, they played kind of a trick on me. For a long time in my life, or at least till the age of like 2 or 3, there was just sights and sounds going into my eyes and ears and turning into thoughts and actions. And then eventually my parents kind of played a little trick on me. As far as I could tell, they said, you're Sean. And now I think there's a Sean. I'm like, oh, I guess there's a Sean. I think that's kind of like Coca-Cola. Like, what is Coca-Cola? Coca-Cola is lots of shit. Coca-Cola is like constantly changing board members and service workers and trucks and bottling plants. But really, like, it's a label. It's a label that applies to like what could otherwise be thought of as lots of stuff that's kind of changing. But if it changes too much, people go, when they change into new Coke, they're like, hey, that's not the Coca-Cola we know and love. And so they go, okay, I'm sorry, I'll change back to like, we'll try to stay to the pattern that you understand. So that's kind of why I say this thing, is because I just want to get myself to do some new shit. I think this is good for me, particularly as like an older person, because I think sometimes people get sort of chained to these things that they think are their thing. They're like, that's my thing. There's a story in the Beatles song called Eleanor Rigby. There's this guy called Father Mackenzie who's writing a sermon that no one will hear. It's a common thing for like older people, is they think, that's my thing, or like, she's the one. Well, maybe she has a restraining order against you. Maybe she's dead. You should come up with like a new one. Like if you think like, that's my thing, well, there's no, if Father Mackenzie is writing his sermon and he's like, I'm a sermon writer, that's my soul, that's my nature, that's my God-given dream. Well, the church is closed. There's no more like jobs for sermon writers. You can like come up with a new story. But what's my point? Just, I think that story, if that story is serving you, if you believe that like, I'm a plumber, that's my God-given dream, if that's serving you, if there's plumber jobs, cool. But if the plumber jobs are all gone, I think it's good to like say like, maybe that's just a story. What's the point? I don't know, that's what I'm trying to say, this like no soul mantra thing. Also, I get, if somebody says like, you're Sean, then I wonder like, well, what happens to Sean when I die? And that's kind of a pain in the ass. I don't want to think that like, am I going to go into like infinite blackness when I die? I think it makes more sense that like, there isn't really like a Sean. There's just kind of like shit happening, and there's always shit happening, and there's other shit. There's like 8 billion other things that are kind of similarly happening. I just can't see those. The shit keeps going, and so I like that idea too. I think sometimes people create fictional, an ongoing, like a word doesn't change, and a word is separate from its surroundings. But if it's in the real world, it's constantly changing and it's interconnected with its surroundings. And so I think sometimes people create a fictional ongoing heaven to create a fictional ongoing idea of a soul. But really, I think there's just shit happening. And I think if you think about it, you were always kind of changing. And so, what's your point? I think there's a big interconnected, ever-changing everything, and that kind of makes the world more sense to me. But in the midst of that interconnected, ever-changing everything, people are applying these words to stuff. And a word basically makes it seem like a thing is separate from its surroundings, and it makes a thing seem like it's not changing. But if it's in the real world, it's kind of interconnected with its surroundings and it's changing. And I think that's kind of how people like think of a soul, and I think that causes some confusion. So I'm trying to break that confusion. But after this, when I listen to Joel Osteen, I'm going to believe in a soul. If somebody says like, hey, I thought you don't believe in souls. Well, now I do. Now I do, because I just think there's just thoughts. There's just, thinking is kind of an active process, and I think that like, you didn't always believe in a soul. You didn't always believe in God. So if somebody says like, "Hey, I thought you were this," well, now I think the other stuff, because I think you can just think whatever you can physically think. That's the gist of it. I find it easier to do that if I don't believe that I'm a thing that's like a fixed thing. But sometimes I will. If thinking I'm a fixed thing keeps me consistent, then I'll think I'll switch again. I didn't always believe this shit. I'll probably switch back later if it's useful. Okay, you think you're so smart, Sean. Not all the time, necessarily. Not all the time. Alright, what else? Okay, so I don't want to talk about this for more than 10 minutes. So, all or nothing thinking. What does this mean? There isn't just it and not it. I want to remind myself. There's a bunch of illusions that words create. One of them is that, like, I'm going to think, I can't do it. There isn't just it and not it. So if I think, like, I can't do cardio because I'm looking at some guy doing, like, a marathon, I'm going to be like, there, you're already doing cardio. That's cardio. If I had a heart rate monitor on right now, that's going to be elevating my heart rate. Now I can ratchet it up. There's some lame level I can do it at. There isn't just it and not it. What else? Anything can be thought of as multiple things. So if I'm doing something and somebody says, that thing you're doing is bad, I'll be like, I'm not just doing that. I'm doing this other thing. And then if somebody says, well, that thing is bad, well, I'm not just doing that. I'm doing like 3 things at once. One of those things is good. but people are mixed bags and actions are mixed bags too. And so even if somebody says like, there's going to be this thing where like on a regular basis, either a voice in my head or a voice from the outside world is going to say you're bad or that thing you're doing is bad. If I want to keep doing it, I should think of it as good. So there's like a positive counter thought that I can apply and be like, well, I think it's good. But I'm really tired. This is going to be hard to go. Just say it slow, say it tired, but say it. Yeah, so there's some sort of, I can think of it as like, yeah, maybe there's some bad stuff mixed in, but also good stuff. So if somebody says,